about the wounded child as the part of us that's got wounds, like a wound in relation to power, or a wound in relation to safety, or a wound in relation to boundaries. My boundaries were intruded on, or I was abandoned. People moved
Mm,
away. We realize
mm,
boundaries are actually the place where we meet. So these are boundary wounds are about meeting and contact. Either
mm,
someone met me and then they pushed too far, or they didn't meet me at all and I felt abandoned.
mm,
I'm throwing these out because I think they're useful. It's a useful terrain to start saying, okay, there's distress here. Is it related to power, too much or not enough? Is it related to contact and meeting and boundaries, intrusions or abandonment? Start to identify these wounds in the ways that they're popping up, and life is helping us feel drawn to people and situations that are going to pop them up. I actually think
mm,
sometimes what happens in love at first sight is actually the recognition of complementary wounds. It's like, oh yeah, there's a part of me that understands, yeah, I have an intrusion wound and you have a bit of insensitivity around boundaries. My intrusion wound knows how to dance with that. There's something about the way that you're strong and direct and forceful that sometimes I might experience as intrusion that feels familiar. And I'm experiencing that as love at first sight. In the beginning, it's like, I know you, I love you, you complete me in some way. And then a couple months down the road, it's, oh my God, you're a horrible demon from hell. You're my nemesis. You're a representation of all that's wrong in me. Or how have I managed to get myself in a situation with you again?
mm.
Um, and in
It's
the moment,
painful.
so painful, so
Mm,
distressing. And
mm,
no one's immune to this. No,
mhm,
I'm definitely not.
mm,
Um, in those moments when insane relationship, the angel becomes a demon. The person
mhm,
that we put on a pedestal falls from grace, and we start all this stuff comes up inside of us. I call that the adaptive child. Well, in psychology, it's called the adaptive child, but this is how I understand the adaptive child. Sometimes it's also called the loyal soldier. It's the
mm,
idea that we accumulate these wounds, and usually it's when we're young, actually, that the recurring wounds that are the deepest. They're young. It's like often pre-verbal, one or two or three. That's when we bump into the ways in which my family culture or the environment that I'm in is gonna empower me or disempower me or intrude or abandon.
mm,
Um, and then as we get older, four, five, six, seven, eight, we start to learn coping strategies around that. It's like, okay, these guys seem to abandon me a lot. Well, then I'm going to armor up myself and I'm going to find a way of living and being in the world where I'm so independent, I don't need those mofos. Or people intrude on me a lot. I'm going to start to make myself really prickly and good at launching counterattacks. And if someone comes at me and says that they're unsatisfied about something around me, I'm going to attack them in a devastating way. And I got this razor tongue that that can lash out at people. Or if it's about sort of there's power stuff that's going on, I'm gonna find myself rebelling against power and being a naughty person, or I might become a tyrant myself and start throwing my weight around because that's how I've learned how to stay safe. Um, all of these are the adaptive charts. Like there's the wound, and then there's the shell that forms around the wound, the coping strategies, the armor, the survival strategies really that form around it. And that's an older child. The image I often get in my head is you got this babe in arms who's the wounded child, this crying babe in arms who's distressed and sad, and then you got this older child who's like a bit scruffy, maybe got odd socks and a bit of snot, and they got this 1,000 yard stare and they've seen some stuff. They're a street kid, they're streetwise, and they're saying to the baby all kinds of things. Sometimes they're saying to the baby, "Shut up, no one wants to hear about your crying right now. You got to push that stuff deep down inside and never speak your truth," and that's how we stay safe. Or other times it's saying to the baby, "Hey, um, we got to stay always on the move. We can't really connect with anyone. We gotta just skim over the top of things because anytime we settle into connection with someone, that's when the bad stuff happens." Or all the different ways in which this older child is whispering to the little child about how to stay safe. They're always super dysfunctional. They're always super misguided. They're always the ways in which, when we find ourselves in relationship, we behave in embarrassing ways, and we're like, "Oh my God, why am I? This is not my enlightened, conscious, generous self." No, because it's the adaptive child. It's this street urchin who learned one or two survival tricks, and every single time the slightest bit of problem happens, it starts telling you to deploy those tricks. Get away, or attack them, or
Mm.
undermine their reality, or uh, just head for the hills and sever all contact.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it's how we work with the adaptive child. Firstly, is we need to honor and respect it. We need to say, hey, thank you. You did keep me safe. It's necessary to develop a thick skin, and it's those
Mm.
survival strategies have helped at times. They when it felt like a survival situation back then, it was necessary, and I'm grateful that you kept me safe. And right now, we're not there anymore. We're not. The war is over. We're trying to bring the war to a halt, and I need you to let me drive the car. And this is me as a wise adult saying, hey, I need you to keep your hands off the steering wheel and stop making decisions about our relationship and uh, um,
Mm.
the things that really matter to us. Because
Mm.
you don't have to be the adult anymore. You don't have to be the one in charge. Me, the wise adult, is the one who's going to be in charge.
Mm.
So often in my work, we'll have those conversations. We'll say, what would you like to say to the adaptive child right now? And we'll go through the honoring, and then we'll go through the agreement where we say, I'll do my best to keep you safe, and I'll make choices that are going to be in for the benefit of everyone. And in return, um, let me know if you're upset about something, little one. Tell me, and I'll start paying attention to the signs in my body that things are feeling unhappy, because I
Mm.
know if I try to avoid them, that's when you're going to jump into the driver's seat and start. I get
Mm.
emotionally hijacked, I get triggered, and I start doing the things that are going to blow up my life.
Mm.
Um, but it's not a moral issue. We're not bad people because of it. Um, we're not childish people fundamentally. We just have these child aspects of ourselves that have the power to really cast some strong votes sometimes,
Mm.
particularly if we're feeling overwhelmed or unsafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The visual I was receiving when you're sharing that is the baby crying and then the adaptive
Yeah.
child on top and then the wise adult that's actually just cradling the two of them like, hey, I've
Yeah.
got you now. Like you can share what you like, but it's okay. And then there's like a softness in the adaptive child. It's like, oh, I can actually be a
Exactly.
child again. I can return to my innocence again. I can allow myself and my spirit to be safe.